everybody, Canadian Moto Gal here, and welcome back to Tidbit Tuesdays, where we discuss some ICBC related riding tips as presented in the ICBC guides, tuning up for riders, and learn to ride smart. So in today's episode, as promised from last week, we will be looking at choosing the correct lane position for when you are being approached by large commercial transport vehicles. Now, the reason that you want to select a different lane position when oncoming traffic is such as a large transport vehicle is obviously because of safety. So if we look at the amount of wind forces that can come off of a vehicle or can suck you in, you definitely don't want to be riding right alongside of a big transport vehicle such as that. A vehicle that's really large or that has a high weight capacity or is weight carrying a lot is something that you want to consider being away from because of the wind, and also because there could also be some debris coming off of those kinds of vehicles. So as you know, there's a lot of wind buffeting that can happen from passing or from just passing by a vehicle such as that. Also, if you're actually overtaking or passing a vehicle that is large like that, you don't want to be in the lane position closest to that vehicle. For those who have not looked at my profile, I actually am on quite a small bike. It's a 2012 Honda CBR250. It's definitely a small bike. It's definitely a lighter bike. I believe it comes in at around the 400-pound mark, and I am not a very large rider, so I do find that I get buffeted around by the wind a heck of a lot more when I'm riding this bike. Now, as you can see right now, the route of travel that I'm taking has a divided highway here. There's 2 lanes on each side, so in this particular case, if there was a large transport vehicle approaching in the oncoming traffic, I may not need to change my lane position because right now I'm already traveling in P3 of this lane. So I wouldn't really feel the wind buffeting from a vehicle in that position over there. The other thing too is if I happened to be in P1 and there was an empty lane and then there was a logging truck in the other lane, I wouldn't necessarily need to change my lane position. What we're talking about is when you are in a lane that is directly next to such a vehicle. In that case, that's where you will want to change over because otherwise you're just too close to the vehicle. All right, good example here. You can see 2 large transport vehicles, but there's a lane separating between the both of us. So I do not need to adjust my lane position. Had those transport vehicles been in the lane closest to me, then yes, I would have needed to adjust my lane position to P3. Let's head out and let's go find some examples and do some demos. Here's another large tractor trailer. I'm already in P3 from my merge, so I didn't need to move from P1 into P3. But right now, I'm actually going to switch from P3 into P1 because P1 is considered, as you know, the dominant lane position when you're traveling on a section of road where there's just the oncoming lane and then your own lane right here. Now, as we look forward, we're probably going to start to see a lot of larger vehicles approaching. This is definitely an industrial area, north central British Columbia, so lots of trucks. So mirror, shoulder, I'm going to move into P3, and I'm going to start counting to a count of about 3 seconds after you pass such vehicles. After the 3-second mark, usually any wind that's come off of that will have receded, so then you are then safe to move back into P1 if you so choose. So when we talk about the 3-second rule, usually that's when you're traveling at highway speeds. Large vehicles approaching, so I should be setting myself up for P3. Mirror, shoulder, and I'm going to move into P3. Once that vehicle passes me on the side, 1001, 1002, 1003, and if you feel wind, it's going to be within those 3 seconds. I did not, so you can see those vehicles weren't huge and they weren't carrying much for transport load, but I'm hoping there's another one. There is another one approaching here. I'm already in P3, so I'm going to do my count again. This one's not loaded up, but 1001, 1002, 1003. I felt a teeny tiny bit of wind there, but nothing compared to a fully loaded logging truck or transport vehicle. So now I can move back into P1 because there's no large vehicles approaching. And let's keep going and see if we can come across any more. All right, so I can see coming up, there's a little trailer. I don't need to move for that, but this truck I will. Mirror, shoulder, moving into P3. Wait till it approaches me. 1001, 1002, 1003, and I did definitely feel a little bit of wind buffeting from that fully loaded transport vehicle. I could move back into P1, but I'm kind of on a bit of a blind hill right now, so I'm going to wait till I can see the traffic approaching, which I can now. So now I could choose to move back into P1. Coming up, fully loaded logging truck, mirror, shoulder check, move into P3, start my count. 1001, 1002, 1003. And I definitely felt a pretty big gust of wind right there. Back into P1. Oh, no, I'm going to stay in P3 because another transport vehicle is approaching. Start my count. 1001, 1002, 1003. A little tiny bit of wind, not that much out of that one. Another example that if there was a large transport vehicle coming down the hill, I would not need to adjust my lane position because there is a lane right off to the side here of me, so that's going to provide a really good buffer. And you can see here comes a transport vehicle. I'm staying steady in P1, and I won't really get the effects of wind buffeting because they're a full lane over. Now here's a little teeny tiny truck. I'm not too concerned about this. I'm going to hold steady in P1. If you're riding an even smaller bike, you might find that you need to move over into P3 with even the smaller transport vehicles. If that's the case, you do what feels safe for you, and you get to know your bike and yourself and your riding conditions and adjust those accordingly. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a turnabout because I'm actually kind of hoping that I will be able to get somewhere where I can do some passing. So that we can do a little bit of a demo about which lane position to be in when you're passing a large transport vehicle. Ah, crap. Here I thought, yeah, I got this. Actually, we do. Okay, so we're going to do a quick shoulder check, and I'm actually going to travel in P1 to pass that vehicle, not P3, because obviously P3 alongside that would just be way too close. So there you go, that's it in a nutshell. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course share the video and connect up with me on social media. I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a great week, everybody, and stay tuned for next week's episode of Tidbit Tuesdays, where we will look at correct lane position for blind hills.
Now it's just like, man, you got to have that time where you just like disconnect from the scene, just the race, like, and it's a race that I've created in my head, you know. But you have to step away from it